Hello and welcome to our last video on creating the impossible game. So here we're going to be making some menus and just getting some final touches on the kind of the gameplay. Pauses when we die, some extra text on the screen to show how many attempts and whatnot. So let's go ahead and just get started with the menus. All right, so we're going to want to go to our scenes folder, right click, create, go to scene, call this main menu, open that up, and then we're going to right click anywhere inside of our hierarchy here, go to UI, and then select canvas, and this will create a HUD element for us, or a UI element. Press F, and you can kind of zoom out and see the whole thing. If you right click, go to UI, legacy, button. So we're going to bring some buttons into here. I have updated buttons that I've created. If you are new to the tutorial, then you should have these assets. If you are following along as I'm making these, you'll want to go and download the download link in the description to get those. All right, so first we can just kind of open up our button here, delete text, and then select button legacy, drag in play. Whoops. And then we can hit preserve aspect, and that'll make it lock to its size it's supposed to be at. And then we can just kind of place it where you want it. I'm just going to do like a left and right layout. And then once you have it about where you want it, Control C V to duplicate it, drag your other one to the other side, and then place exit. And then we're going to want to anchor these. So I'm going to anchor this one center left and center right. That way, if we go into here and things get shifted, it'll move things around to stay at the edge of the screen. As long as your screen isn't a 4x3 or something that you're working with, then you won't have any issues with that. But just play around with those to figure out where exactly you want them. All right, so now we need to make something actually happen on click when you select play. And to do that, we can add an on-click event in here in the button script. But first we need a script to do that with. So we'll go into scripts and create a new, we'll call this menu manager, our main menu manager. All right, open that up. Once this opens up, we can just delete everything that's in here. We don't need any of this code. And we just need to create some public methods for our buttons. So first is we'll create our exit. So public void exit game. And then all we put in here is application.quit. And then that will quit the game. You won't see it within Unity. Unity blocks this call because if you did successfully call it, I'm fairly certain the reasoning is it would close out of Unity. But this will work if you're launching it on a device or on your computer. The next method that we need is public void load level. So we want to load level 1. So we can actually pass in a string in here and say this is level name. So if you have multiple buttons on here for multiple levels, you can just pass in the string that you want. We only have one level, so we're going to say Unity, or no, I think it's a scene manager. And if that doesn't pop up, just press Alt Enter, and then Unity scene management. And then we'll say load scene, and we want to load our level. My level is called level 1. And then we'll load it, but we don't actually want to do this here. We want to pass in our level name. So it's scene, load scene, level name. And then we can declare inside of our inspector, inside of Unity, what level we actually want to load. So go ahead and save that. Then back in Unity, we can select our buttons. I'm going to rename these. So this is play button. And this is exit button. All right, so now if we have select our play button, we can go down and say on click. Well, we need something to reference. So I like to attach my menu scripts to the root level of the canvas. So we'll say main menu. And here we can now say, hey, I want to, on play, I want to perform a function so I can pass in my canvas, and then I can get my main menu manager off of my canvas. You're free to attach scripts to wherever you want them to be, but it always helps me keep it organized by attaching it to the canvas layer or canvas object. So now we want to play. So if we find our script that says load level, and right now it's asking for something here. So we can just go to our scenes, select our level here, F2 to get the name, go to the play button again, and then just paste that in here. And then for our exit button, similar process. Plus, drag in our canvas to the object, main menu manager, because that's the name of the script, exit game. And now if we save this and test it out, and now if we click play, it loads up our level. And now if you had multiple levels, you could just change the value here and select whatever level you wanted to have. Next, we want to put some UI inside of our actual level scenes. So if we go into here, we can just right click somewhere inside of the hierarchy, UI, canvas to create our canvas. And you may notice that these are very different sizes. They operate entirely independently of each other. It's just a weird kind of nuance to Unity if you're not familiar with it. All right, so let's go ahead and go to UI, and we want to add in some text. So if we go to legacy text, this will give us our text object here, our text game object. And I want to show how many attempts have been tried, like similar to how they do it within the Impossible game. So we can do that, and then we can make this bold, make it white, and we can jump over our game. We kind of see in our game view how that's popping up. Right now it's tiny. So drag this up over here. Let's make it bigger, scale up our font size, go back and see how does that look. Still in the wrong place. We want to put it, I think, more centered. And to do that, we can scale it to edge, and then make it centered. And so we can put attempts is 0. So now if we go back in, it's nice and centered in our screen. And we can make this to scale horizontally. That way, if the screen shifts, it always stays centered. All right, I'm gonna put that a little bit higher because I don't want to actually block in the view. Okay. And now we have our attempts. And now we just need to actually update our attempts when we die. So if we go into our scripts and select our player controller, sorry, actually we want to go to Impossible Game Manager because that's where we're calling our reset position. So every time our position is reset, we want to increment on the attempts. So we just need to get a reference. So let's say public text and then hit space. If it does that, don't worry about it. Just go back, and as long as it says text, Alt Enter, and then select Unity Engine UI, and we can say attempt, lowercase, attempt text. So every time we reset our position, we want to update our attempt text. So we just need our number of attempts. So public int number of attempts. This doesn't have to be public. We can keep this as a private, unless you just want to see it in the inspector. All right, so now when we die, we want to say, hey, attempt text, get the text value, and the attempt text value is going to equal attempt number colon space then plus our number of attempts. And then that should update, and we can set this as a default value of 1 because the game is going to start with 1. Now if we go back to our Possible game, we can take our attempts, which actually we're saying attempts here, so I'm going to remove the attempt number and we'll say attempts. Okay, go back. And we should make this say 1. And now when we're going to find our manager, game manager, and then we just need to add our text into there. All right, so now we can test this. So whenever we die, it should increment that attempts up there. So you can see I died, and it did not work because I didn't increment the attempts. We just update it. So if we add here a number of attempts plus plus, then it should change. So now when we die, attempts 2, we can see every time we die, it's just going to step up. And if you're getting this square here, you can uncheck gizmos. That's just for like seeing like raycasts and any debug objects you have in the scene. But yeah, that is working correctly. It actually looks like when we hit the black pit over here, our game is incrementing our attempts by 2, and that's because it's hitting 2 kill zones at the same time and resetting the position twice technically. So to fix this, we can go into our game manager here, and we can put like a cooldown on this reset. So let's say bool can reset, say equal to true, and then we can say if can reset, allow all this to happen. So all we have to do is say we need to do a coroutine. So let's say IEnumerator. So we can call this reset cooldown. and then say yield, return, wait for seconds, and just let this to something very small, so 0.001 f, and let's return new wait for seconds. And then after 100th of a second, it will set reset, can reset back to true. So we just need to call this from here, say start coroutine, reset cooldown, and we just need to be sure that we set can reset is equal to false before this. That way this can't get called again. Now if we go back into Unity and try this and fall into that pit, it should prevent the multiple attempts from happening. So we've died once, twice. Yeah, any position that we get in now where it should call it twice is not happening. It's only calling it once because that can reset is being set to false for 100th of a second. So it shouldn't have any other issues, just stops that from being called in rapid succession like that. Next, I'd like to add a slight delay before the reset happens, because right now when we play, we die and it immediately snaps back to the beginning. It would be nice if there was a quick pause that would make that happen. All right, so we can do that by going back into our script here. All of that is happening within our reset positions method here. So we can do that here. So if can reset, we want to create a pause. So pause or stop movement. And actually, no, we probably want to stop time. So stop time for a moment. Stop time for, let's say, 5 seconds. Or no, that's too long, 2 seconds. And that way everything would kind of freeze in its place. And then after those 2 seconds, we can resume the game and snap back. So what we want to do is say time.timescale is equal to 0. And that will stop the player from moving. Some of your other methods like updates and stuff will still run. So we can call a coroutine. So let's make a new one, say IEnumerator, and say delay on death. And we can yield, return, new, wait for seconds real time. So this will ignore the timescale and just move in real time. So let's do, we said 2 seconds, but I'm going to say 1 second would probably be enough. So 1F, and then we need to do this next part. So let's take the can reset because we want that to be called immediately. So say can reset is false, so this is going to call twice, and then we can take everything else in here and take this down into our delay on death because we want all of this stuff to happen after the delay. So let's say start coroutine, and we're going to call delay on death. And that should do it. So let's go test this. And when we hit play, oh, we didn't add in, after all this, we need to add in the timescale. Time.timescale is equal to 1 because we want it to go back to from 0 to 1. Now if we go back in, when we die, there should be a pause. And then it resets, and everything else is working as it's supposed to. But it kind of gives a nice moment like, oh, I actually died, rather than it just snaps back to the beginning and confuses you. And the same thing will happen if you press like the space bar. It'll pause it and reset it and increment your attempts. Let's add in a pause menu now. So when we press the escape key, we want a menu to pop up. So we've already got our canvas here. So we can add a couple of, let's see, UI, what do we have? We can add a panel and place these things inside of the panel. So we can kind of group them together here. And we can, let's actually just make this the width and let it stretch and match. We don't want the opaque background though, so to get rid of that, just go to color, your alpha, remove your alpha. Now if we just right click our panel, go to UI, legacy, button, we can bring a button in, and then we can grab our play. So that's for resume. And again, set your preserve aspect and scale it how you want it. And actually get rid of that text in there because we don't need it. And let's scale this and center it. All right. So that is about where I want it. I think maybe make it a little bit smaller. Then Control C V, make another one. And then one more time. And yeah, these aren't quite the right size. Oops. If I can select them. Select all three. Scale it down a little bit. And kind of get them positioned where you want them. I'm going to stretch these to the edge so I can ensure that they're centered. And just kind of space them how you want them. Bring this one down a little bit. And there we go. So let's there, that'll work for now. So we got play, then we need, let's say, restart. So we can restart the whole level, and then exit for our third one down here. So for exiting the game. All right, so we can take our panel here and toggle it on and off. So when we pause, our buttons will show up. So right now we can start with it off, but we can create a C# script, pause menu controller, and this is where we'll have all of our logic for our pause menu. So we can get rid of all of this, and let's say public void show pause menu, and then we just need a reference back to our panels. So let's find, we'll say public game object pause panel. And then we can say pause panel dot set active to true. And we can, actually let's make this toggle pause menu. So rather than set active, it will be so set active to pause panel dot, is active self I'm looking for? Active. There, pause panel active to not active. So this should return, I want to just use active self because that one is obsolete. There we go. So this will just make the set active opposite to whatever it currently is. So whenever you call toggle pause menu, it'll just do the opposite. Next, we need to add in some of our other button controls. So we have our restart button. So public void restart. This is just going to reload the level. So we can say scene manager. Make that, whoops, make that capital. And then Alt Enter if it doesn't show up, and use Unity Engine Scene Management. And so .load scene. And we want to load the current scene name to restart it. To get the current scene name, we can say scene manager .get active scene. And this will return the active scene. Then we can just say name, and this will return the active scene name, and then find it in the build list and load that. So that's how we can restart the level, and that will restart your attempts. All right. Next, we need to have an exit, and that one we already done before. So it's public void exit game, which is application.quit. And then last one that we need is the resume. So we'll say public void resume game. And this is when you hit the play button that will unpause the game. So first thing we need to do is actually pause the game. So to do that, we can just do it from here and say update, and we can listen for the key press. So say if input dot get key down. So this will get it on when it's first pressed down and nothing after that. We can say key code dot escape. So anytime our escape key is pressed, we can toggle our pause or unpause. So what we can do is say if the pause panel active self, so we want to say, is this active? If it's active, then we want to resume the game. So we will call resume game. So we can do this from by pressing the escape key again, or from actually pressing the button. And then if it's not active, then we want to pause the game. So timescale, time.timescale needs to be equal to 0 to pause the game. And we can toggle pause menu because we've already determined that it's not active. So that will bring up our pause menu and pause the game. But when we want to resume the game, we need to set the timescale back to 1. So we can say time.timescale is equal to 1. And we're going to toggle pause menu. And that should allow us to bring our pause menu in and out. So let's go back into Unity. And we want to add our script here to our canvas. So say pause menu controller, and we need our pause panel, so we can bring our pause panel over here. Now, if we press play and we press escape, it brings up our menu. And if we press play, nothing's happening because we haven't actually tied anything to it yet. So we need to tie these buttons to the methods in there. All right, but actually we could have tested to see if escape would have worked if we pressed it again. So escape, and I press it again, the game continues. And it works exactly as we wanted to. All right, so now in our canvas here, we can drag in our buttons. So this is our play button. So play button, just want to name these to keep things organized. And we got our restart button and our exit button. All right, so go back to our canvas here, find our pause panel, and we can see that we have to, go back to our play button, and we can drag our canvas in, and reset menu controller. So play means resume. You can make a resume button if you want. That will resume the game. Restart is going to reload the level. So same thing, drag in our canvas, pause menu controller, and restart. Is that what that method's called, or is that a different one? Yeah, that's the right one. All right, and then exit button plus drag in our canvas and pause menu controller, exit game. And now our game here is all synced up, and we can test it. So, oh, we died. Jump, jump, escape, play, works out, wants to. Pause, restart, reloads the entire scene. What we have an issue here is the timescale didn't get set back, so we need to set the timescale back to 1 on restart. So if we go back into here, so restart, we want to say timescale, time.timescale is equal to 1. That way it gets set back to 1 and it's not locked at 0 because that will transfer between scenes. Try that again. All right, so now if we pause the game and hit restart, it reloads and doesn't get frozen up. And that is our pause menu. Last thing to add is a way to win, because right now, if we make it to the end, it'll just go on forever. So what we can do is let's go into our scene, zoom back in to get away from the HUD, and we can see our whole level here. And it's going across, and I've added a little bit more rather than boring you guys with doing it. But go through and just get your level how you want it. And then under our level obstacles, we can create a new, so let's say create empty, and we can grab that object and bring it to the end. And this is going to be our where we beat the game. So add a component, and we want to add a trigger box 2D. Box collider 2D, and make that a trigger box. And then we can select here to kind of scale it up. We want if our player makes it past this point, then they win. And we can pop up on the screen, say you win. So if they make it to there, that'll do it. So we'll say win zone. And we just need to create a script for winning. So create C# script, win script. Get that script opened up, and all we have to say is on trigger 2D enter, or enter 2D. We want to say are we colliding with the player? So is collision.tag equal to player? If it is, we want to win the game. So we could just go into Unity here, and let's say that we win, and it just pops up on the screen and says you win. All right, so let's create a new panel, UI panel, and we'll call this winning panel. And zoom back out to get our full view here, and it looks like it does this whole thing, so we can say we make it black, and then under winning panel we add a UI legacy text, And that's all it's going to say is you win. So we'll just scale this to center. I'll fill the whole screen with it. Stretched fill so it always stays center. And then you win. Lots of exclamation points for emphasis. Make the background white. Center, center on those two. And there you go. We'll just have to have this pop up at win. All right. So we go back to our script here, and we just need to call that. So if we get a reference to that, we can just say public game object, win panel. And then when we win panel dot set active to true. And that will do it. And we need to say something happens after this. So we can add a enumerator. So another coroutine. And let's say we go back to main menu. Load main menu after delay. And yield, turn, new wait for seconds. And we'll say wait for seconds real time in case somebody happens to hit the escape key or something during. And 2 seconds. Let's say 5 seconds. And then we'll just say scene manager. Alt enter. Oop, did not mean to do that. And then alt enter to import that. Scene manager dot load scene. And we're going to load main menu to go back to the main menu scene. So here we just say start coroutine. Load main menu after delay. And then that should do it. So if we go back into Unity, we just need to get that reference created to the win panel and attach our win script to our win object. So let's go back to our level obstacles. Should be right there, win zone, win script. We need our win panel attached to it. So find our winning panel and then turn off our winning panel. And now if we play the game and let's see if I can actually beat it first try, we'll get to see that we win and it tries to load back to the main menu. It may not actually load back to the main menu because I haven't attached all of that to the build yet, the build settings. See if I can make it. And I made it to the end. So now we hit it, says you win, and I'm probably going to get an error here in 5 seconds. There it is. I haven't added it to the build settings, but this worked exactly as we wanted it to. So we just go to File, Build Settings. You'll see we have scene level 1 up here. We just need to go back to our scenes and drag in our main menu scene. And we're going to actually drag this one underneath because main menu is going to be the first scene that loads. So if we play through this one more time, we should have a full game. So try again. See if I can beat my easy level again first try. And we drop down, hit our win zone, pops up, you win. And then after 5 seconds, it's going to reload back into the main menu. And there you go. That is how you make a basic version of the Impossible game. There's a lot more you can do and a lot of levels you can add. Hope you enjoyed this series, and thanks for watching.